Welcome to Chessbox Worldwide. This is a game between Magino and Pido Edwin in the Innovation Cup Season 4. These are quarterfinals, Game 1. These are all interesting players. Magino has played the Uganda National Chess Championship and he played very well with impressive results. And Pido Edwin has won various tournaments around the country and also on the African continent. He has played various junior tournaments and he has gotten impressive results. He's called Pido Edwin in the black pieces and he has an FM title just waiting for him to be getting the rating which is required of him to get that title, FIDE Master, because he needs to get it. So in the black pieces, they shake hands and off we go. Magino opens the game with 1 e4 and e6 from Pido Edwin, the French defense, d4, d5, knight comes c3, and in this position knight f6 is always expected, or bishop comes to e7. All these are good moves to be played in the position. He picks knight f6. And in this position, the bishop g5 is also a very popular move. Bishop goes to g5 pinning, bishop e7, e5, knight goes to d7, bishop picks, and queen picks. In this position, f4 is by far the best move. Knight comes to b5, knight goes to b6, f4, and after a6, we see a5. In this position, black has to take the knight, which is on b5, and white goes on to take the knight, which is on b6. But let us see, even if you try knight comes to c4, bishop is going to take off the knight. So knight comes to c4, the bishop picks knight, then the bishop will still pick the pawn, which will be on b5. So all you have to do is you have to pick the knight, which is on c4, to play it safe. And Magino tries to assess the position, and he understands that if he gives Pido any chance to breathe, then the game is going to be interesting. So bishop picks and then pawn picks. Knight can still come to a3, and after queen b4 check, c3, queen takes b2, knight e2, short castling will be expected. But let's go back. After d takes c4, he plays knight comes c3, and in this position queen b4 is expected, and you have to give up the pawn and just play knight comes to e2. Then you would go for short castling. But let us see if Pido Edwin, he can be able to find the queen b4 move. Finish the 7 rounds with only 1 loss, so he plays queen comes to b4, and the only move you have to play is knight comes to e2, and after queen takes b2, short castling, queen b4, knight e4, short castling, knight f4, queen comes to g4, and I can tell you all will be very dangerous to play on. This is a very dangerous position. But after queen comes to b4, Magino plays rook a2. But let's see how Pido Edwin treats it. He plays knight comes to c6, and he wants to take back the queen on e7, and this square where the queen is where he wants to put his knight to sit on b4, and I can tell you it is going to be a very, very, very powerful one. So Magino has to understand the position and try to create attacking opportunities. Also he plays queen comes to g4, attacking the pawn which is here. So you have to give up that. For example, after bishop this b7, then you play queen takes, long castling, knight e2, king. Then after in this position, this is a variation we expect to see. But after queen g4, Pido Edwin plays king goes to f8, and I can tell you, you can just go on and develop your pieces. For example, knight can come to f3, then you can play h4, then the rook can come on h3, rook h2 can come here on f3. So he plays knight comes to f3. So in this position, you can see that the pawn which is on f5 is hanging, so the knight can still take on the pawn, and white has no serious compensation. He is only planning to go ahead and go for short castling, because now the pawn can be taken and Pido takes it, and we see short castling from Magino. Knight goes back to c6, and now we are seeing that b5 is the only plan he's expecting to play. So Magino has to go ahead and also try to create some opportunities on the board. h4 can be seen in the position. He plays h4 and Pido Edwin plays queen e7. So he's planning to bring the knight back to where the queen has been. Pawn goes ahead, h6 to stop the further advances. So in this, he plays queen comes to e4, but however, knight e4 would have been a better move, taking control of the c5 square. But after playing queen e4, Pido Edwin, it's his time to play. A very strong move is knight comes to b4, attacking the rook which is on a2. So knight comes to b4 and rook has to come to f4. It's the only move. After rook b8, queen h4, f5, rook takes f4, queen takes h4, knight takes h4. This is a variation we expect to see in the position. But after knight b4, we see rook goes to a1, and after c6, which is not a good move, because now you can first of all play knight comes to d2, attacking the pawn. In case of any further advancements, then you can take the sack of the pawn. So Magino finds it, he plays knight comes to d2, attacking the pawn which is on c4, and after pawn comes to b4, you see that the knight can come and take the pawn which is on b5, and you can't take back the knight because everything is pinned. So Magino takes the pawn, knight takes pawn b5, and you can't take the knight because all pawns are pinned. So black has two options, either play f5 or knight takes c2, which is going to be expected in the position, but it's also not easy to find. Remember, Pido Edwin has 1 minute and 9 seconds on the clock, so he gives up the rook. He plays pawn takes, and after queen takes rook, queen comes in for an exchange, and Magino takes the queen, bishop takes the queen, and in this position he has given up the rook, but you can see he has a very strong pawn chain, and we see rook comes to c1. However, rook comes to c1, this rook on a1 would have been better. So after king goes out, because now you could say if the rook would be on f1, pawn f4 could be a strong move, then pawn comes to f5 would be a strong move. But now, since the rook is not there, pawn push doesn't add up. So in this position we see c3, giving up the d3 square, connecting the pawns but giving up the d3 square. Pido Edwin takes control of the square. Rook goes to c2, defending the pawn. Knight goes out, attacking the pawn which is on g2, at the same time attacking the pawn which is on h5. So f3 has to be played. It's a very simple move to play. Plays knight move, so bishop has to take the knight, but however the pawn which is on s6 would be hung, so he protects the pawn first, and now he's ready to take the knight. So king moves away from harm's way, then knight takes the pawn which is on h5. So bishop takes f3 is also a move which is expected, so he moves away the knight, and now knight comes back. He plays pawn goes to g3, attacking the knight. Knight goes to g6, the only move, because these squares are being taken on by the pieces. He's okay. He plays knight goes to g6, so king goes out, bishop comes in, attacking the rook. Rook goes down, and in this position I can tell you he plays f6, but however f5 should have been considered. So he plays f3, attacking the bishop. Bishop goes back to d5, and in this position Magino no man to play. He plays pawn takes f6, and after g takes f6, he wants to bring the rook because this is another weakness which is seen. So he plays knight comes in, the rook is going to come in. After pawn push, he has to take the pawn before he plays the rook to attack the pawn, but he has 2 seconds. He plays rook comes to h1, and now pawn takes, and in this position has 1 second. He has 2 seconds. One, he takes the pawn, but this is not a good move because after knight takes here, it's going. Thank you so much for watching, and I wish you the best of luck in your game.